They say the truth always comes out, but no one expected Angie Stone's own son to drop a bombshell that would leave fans speechless. After weeks of silence following her sudden passing, her son finally broke down and revealed shocking autopsy results that completely contradict the official story. What really happened to Angie Stone? And why was the world told her death was just a tragic accident?
Hours that are the millennial style. I mean, I can't get no classic, sexy, dope music.
I just play Luther Vandross.
No, you play Kendrick Lamar and a piece of Luther Vandross.
Yeah.
No, he got to use Luther to get on. Come on now.
No, don't.
Now, don't make me start calling y'all out.
Be careful.
I ain't got to be.
Watch.
Look at that. They running from Kendrick Lamar. I love Kendrick Lamar. But I'm going to tell you this.
Yeah, fix that.
And shut up.
Fix that.
First of all, Kendrick Lamar, none of them don't scare me. And I'm going to tell you why.
Fix that, though.
Because
That's
if
Kendrick.
you got to go and sample Luther,
Mama, don't do that. Because we can have a discussion on this live.
We can discuss it on this live.
Your biggest song is a sample.
It is a sample, but
All
I gave them the credit, and I didn't have. Wait a minute. The song was rewritten. Don't tell me what not to do, boy. Listen to me. I'm trying to teach you something. I'm saying this new generation is hustling hard off of familiarity. Okay, I ain't mad at them because you're smart to do that.
Why?
You understand?
Who they learn from? I do that.
I don't know. You tell me.
I'm asking you a question.
No, I don't know. See, you supposed to be driving. Pay attention to the road. This is what I'm talking about. Trying to stay over here in my world. And my thing right now is, and I'm not trying to hate on anybody. Let me make that clear.
That was definitely hate.
That was not a hate. What I said, you play. He gonna holler. He played Luther Vandross. I just told him the truth. No, you played Kendrick Lamar with a piece of Luther Vandross. Was I wrong?
Luther got paid.
Luther is not getting paid. Luther is deceased.
People got paid.
So I'm going to need you to stop talking fast when you don't know what you're talking about. If they'd have sampled it while he was here, he would have saw that paper. But he ain't seeing it right now.
Can't live forever.
No, you can't live forever.
But
you know,
live forever.
But guess what? Their music will live forever and people going to use it forever.
Mm-hmm.
That don't mean take advantage of a person because they're no longer here.
I don't think you say
I didn't say no names. You saying it now. Yeah. I sampled, neither one of us, I sampled 8 bars for No More Rain in This Cloud. I rewrote the entire bridge, the song, the lyrics, everything, and I used the intro on the song. But you know what I did? You know what I did? I gave them 95% of the song. I gave my dad the other 5% because guess what? I was inspired by their music. And I figured if I could give back to the OGs, let me do it in this way. Because they got a song, now my song lives forever. They get a check forever. God gonna bless me for my giving. Now I ain't saying that.
Christmas came early.
Unfortunately, my dad passed away and he didn't get his money. Okay?
95?
The company got 95%. We were both signed to the same publishing company. And my publishing company said, okay, we're going to have to pay for this sample. Because they knew I was coming back with another song. So they didn't they didn't charge me anything for the sample. They took the song.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is with heavy hearts that the children of the R&B singer Angie Stone, along with her extended family, want to thank you all for your love and well wishes during what is an extremely difficult time. Angie was an example for Black women and girls everywhere. Angie also loved and championed for Black men with her #1 hit entitled Brotha. Angie Stone was a pioneer of rap music that began with a female rap trio, The Sequence, and ultimately led to her solo career that defined neo-soul. Diamond and Michael, along with the rest of Angie's family, want to thank you for reaching out, but also ask that you respect their privacy as they grieve the loss of their beloved mother. Angie Stone believed in giving back to her fans and the community with her foundation, Angel Stripes, the Angie Stone Foundation. Recently, Angie was also attending college for ministry. Her love of God and her faith led her to have a deep desire to share her belief in God and bring more people to Christ. Currently, funeral services are still being planned along with the memorial service, so that Angie's fans can honor her life, music, and legacy. Even though Angie is no longer with us physically, her F.
Hey, how y'all doing? What's going on? We are still mourning Angie Stone. If you guys did not know, she just passed away. She was hit by an 18-wheeler, okay? And the vehicle flipped over 3 times. And people are saying, put it together. 6 times 6 times 6 is 18. 3 times 6 is 18. That is Satan's number, 666. You guys know recently she was jabbed by a dangerous needle, which caused her to almost leave this earth. And she said this is a spiritual warfare, that this was Satan's doing, okay? Now, you guys know recently she was calling out a lot of music record labels for stealing her money. And she called them out, and she was planning on getting lawyers to go after them. And just like that, this happened. I got a video you guys need to look at because it's going to explain everything. And also, people are saying that she was already dead before the accident. They just did the accident to make it seem like she died by a car accident. But people are saying she was already been dead. Al B. Shore is coming out exposing her secret health, which was very crazy. But you guys got to watch this video. If you guys do not know, you are watching The Messy Sweet Spot. I'm your host, Gigi with the T. Hey, Gigi with the T. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe here, okay? And I share this video because we all need to know what's going on in these streets.
Our sunshine has come, and I'm all cried out. I wish I didn't miss you anymore. You can make it, do what you gotta do.
Columbia-born singer, songwriter, actor, and record producer Angie Stone died in a car crash early this morning.
It has been one heck of a ride. This last month, the enemy was trying to take me out. They've taken pretty much everything. They've stolen all the monies that were due to me. They have basically absorbed in that company.
Picture this, a powerhouse soul singer who just weeks ago exposed a scandal that could shake the very foundations of the music industry, suddenly meets a mysterious fate. Angie Stone, a beloved icon of R&B, had recently gone public with accusations that her own music company was robbing her of rightful royalty payments.
People that were working on my behalf never even registered the songs. All the songs that I've done, I'm only coming to find out they were not properly registered by the companies that I signed over to.
Rumors were swirling that she was on the brink of launching a lawsuit that would expose years of industry exploitation. And then, on March 1st, the unthinkable happened, a fatal vehicular crash in which she was the only casualty among 9 occupants. What could be more suspicious than that? Angie Stone's story has it all: fame, fortune, love, betrayal, and a shocking final twist. On March 1st, 2025, the 63-year-old R&B legend was tragically killed in a car crash, leaving the music world in disbelief. How did a pioneering soul diva who gave us decades of hits end up in such heartbreaking headlines? Grab your tea, because we're about to spill the untold saga of Angie Stone, a journey from gospel beginnings to a mysterious end that has everyone talking. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. Angie Stone, born Angela Brown, grew up in Columbia, South Carolina, with music in her veins. As a young girl, she belted gospel songs in church and honed her powerful voice under her father's guidance in a local gospel quartet. But little Angie had big dreams beyond the pews. In her teens, she burst onto the scene as Angie B in the first all-female hip-hop trio, The Sequence. In 1979, they dropped the funky rap single, Funk You Up,
We're gonna funk you right on up. We're gonna funk you right on up.
making history and proving ladies could rock the mic. That was just the beginning. Our girl Angie was only getting started. By the early 90s, Angie's musical evolution was in full swing. She traded rap for silky R&B, joining the group Vertical Hold and scoring a New Jack Swing hit with Seems You're Much Too Busy. But Angie's true destiny was to shine solo. In 1999, she released her debut album Black Diamond,
This is my life story.
which went gold and gave us the soulful gem, No More Rain in This Cloud.
My sunshine has come
Then came 2001's Mahogany Soul,
back, brother. I love you.
delivering the iconic breakup anthem, Wish I Didn't Miss You,
I can't eat, I can't sleep anymore.
a song that still cuts deep to this day. Angie's rich voice and honest lyrics struck a chord, catapulting her into the forefront of the neo-soul movement. She wasn't just singing R&B, she was redefining it. Her powerful voice and presence made her an R&B icon, earning multiple Grammy nominations and a reputation as a neo-soul pioneer. As the 2000s rolled in, Angie racked up achievements like they were hit records. She nabbed 3 Grammy nominations and took home a pair of Soul Train Lady of Soul awards, solidifying her status as R&B royalty. Critics hailed her as one of the architects of neo-soul, right alongside Erykah Badu and Jill Scott. She even branched into acting, popping up in films like The Hot Chick,
Before the full moon end.
fighting temptations with the iconic Cuba Gooding Jr.,
I'll give you all control. Let your love bring down.
and reality shows like R&B Divas.
We all know clearly we can make it on a solo tip by ourselves.
By 2021, the industry was bowing to her legacy, honoring Angie with a Soul Music Icon Award for her 40-plus years of contribution. There was no doubt this soulful songstress had become a living legend. But behind the success and smiles, Angie's personal life was a roller coaster ride worthy of its own song. Let's talk love lives and heartbreak, because Angie's romantic history was just as soulful as her music. In the mid-90s, Angie fell into a passionate romance with R&B crooner D'Angelo,
And as a matter of fact, a bunch of them itching for you to scratch them.
and the duo quickly became a neo-soul power couple. They collaborated musically. You can thank Angie for helping shape D'Angelo's early sound,
Brown sugar, babe, I guess high up your love, I don't know how to behave.
and even had a son together, Michael D'Angelo Archer II. For a while, it seemed like a match made in musical heaven, the queen of neo-soul and the brown sugar prince. But as D'Angelo's star exploded, cracks formed in their fairy tale. The two eventually parted ways, leaving Angie with a beautiful son and a bittersweet chapter to look back on.
I was in a very high-profile relationship with D'Angelo. Shortly after the breakup between us, everything kind of slowed down in my world in terms of tour dates, work. Perception was the worst, of course.
She later mused that when they met, D'Angelo was just a shy 19-year-old kid and that she was the only one who saw the superstar he'd become. Talk about having an eye for talent. Now brace yourself for this one. Hollywood heartthrob Idris Elba. Yes, Mr. Stringer Bell himself.
This motherfucker bugged out one time. What, he gonna bug out again when he find out Shorty cop?
Once had the biggest crush on Angie Stone. Who knew? Angie did, and she spilled the tea in a 2015 tell-all interview. Back in the early 2000s, Idris was an up-and-coming actor cast in Angie's music video, and he apparently fell head over heels for our soulful diva. Angie revealed that Idris was actually crushing on me during the shoot, making it no secret to all their friends that he was in love with Angie Stone. Her reaction? She put the gorgeous Brit in the friend zone.
Idris and I were like sister and brother. We both had the same man. And, you know, the little crushing here and there.
She saw him as more of a brother figure and was still entangled with D'Angelo then. But years later, after Idris became, well, Idris Elba, Angie didn't mince words about second thoughts. Do I regret it? Absolutely, she admitted with a laugh in a recent interview on Vlad TV. Imagine turning down Idris Elba and then watching him become a Hollywood sex symbol. That's a plot twist even Angie couldn't write. It's the kind of juicy Hollywood meets R&B story that kept Angie's name swirling in gossip circles, proving her life off stage was as intriguing as any song lyric. But with the highs come the lows. Angie wasn't afraid to face the ugly side of the music industry. Late last year, in December 2024, Angie made waves by calling out Universal Music Group, UMG, her former record label, in a very public way.
After 40-something years in the business, I'm like, where are my royalties going? Because I'm not getting this. Come to find out, Universal Music has been receiving all my royalties.
Angie discovered that the royalty checks she was owed were essentially non-existent. We begin to research my royalties, only to find out that they have all pretty much been stolen, she revealed, dropping a bombshell on UMG.
A lot of my publishing, a lot of my royalties, my mechanicals, they have all pretty much been stolen. They've taken pretty much everything. They have taken all the monies that were due to me. They have basically absorbed in that company.
The industry was shook. Here was a veteran artist bravely saying what so many whisper, that she'd been cheated out of her earnings by a giant label. Fans rallied behind her, praising Angie for fighting for her rights and shedding light on the rampant royalty scandals in music. After all, Angie had written and sung her heart out for decades, classics that made labels millions.
I wish I didn't miss you anymore.
So the idea that she hadn't seen her fair share was infuriating. This confrontation put Angie at odds with powerful forces in music, but she was determined to get what she deserved. Little did anyone know, this battle would soon take a chilling turn. February 2025 saw Angie still basking in a creative renaissance. Fresh off releasing a 2023 album and planning new projects, she seemed unstoppable. But on the night of February 29th, after performing to an adoring crowd in Alabama, fate was about to deal a cruel hand. In the early hours of March 1st, 2025, Angie was en route from Mobile, Alabama to Atlanta in a Mercedes van with her band and crew. They were likely laughing, maybe rehashing the show's highlights, when out of nowhere, disaster struck on the highway. At approximately 4 a.m., their van flipped over on Interstate 65, and before they could react, an 18-wheeler truck slammed into them. The impact was devastating. Amid the chaos and twisted metal, Angie Stone was gravely injured. By the time the dust settled, Angie was the only person who hadn't made it out alive. Yes, the only one. In an instant, the world lost a musical icon, and a routine road trip turned into international news. The aftermath was pure heartbreak. When news broke that Angie Stone had died in that horrific crash, fans around the globe were in shock. Social media exploded with an outpouring of grief and disbelief. "Not Angie? This can't be real," echoed across timelines. Fellow musicians, from old school legends to the new generation she inspired, paid tribute to the soulful voice that had touched millions. Her family was crushed. Angie's daughter, Diamond, and son, Michael, released a tearful statement that never in a million years did we ever expect to get this horrible news. "Our mom is and will always be our everything." Her longtime publicist summed it up beautifully, saying Angie's voice and spirit will live on forever in the hearts of those she touched. And she touched so many, through songs that got us through heartbreaks and celebrations, and a warmth that radiated whenever she performed. The world had lost a queen of soul, and the void she left was immeasurable. But even as loved ones mourned, whispers began to spread about the eerie timing of this tragedy. It didn't escape folks that Angie's death came right after her very public fight with a major record label. In barbershops, forums, and comment sections, people started asking, was this really just a freak accident? One social media user voiced what many were thinking. "I hate to be a conspiracy theorist, but right after a recent video of Angie Stone accusing UMG of not paying her properly, she has a fatal car crash?" The insinuation was chilling. Had Angie's outspokenness ruffled the wrong feathers? Could there be more to the story of that accident? It's the kind of speculation that usually lives in late-night Twitter threads and whispered conversations. The notion that the industry might silence those who speak out. Suddenly, Angie's tragic end was fueling a firestorm of conspiracy theories. Was it just a cruel coincidence? Or, as some believe, the music industry curse striking again? Crazy as it sounds, this pattern of tragedy isn't new to music insiders. In fact, Angie's death has people recalling other stars who met untimely ends after battling the powers that be. Exposure magazine even noted how the shocking deaths of icons like Michael Jackson, Prince, Tupac Shakur, and Aaliyah all raise troubling questions about the price of speaking out against an industry that thrives on control and profit. One thing's for sure, Angie Stone's legacy isn't going anywhere. Her music still pours out of radios and playlists. Her influence runs deep through today's R&B queens, and her story, full of love, music, and mystery, will continue to captivate and caution us all. Rest in power.
His son took to his Instagram to react to his mother's death, which she died on his birthday. Today is his birthday, and his mother passed away. So he posted on his Instagram some pictures of himself with a caption saying 28 on the 28th, which means he turned 28 and his birthday the 28th, and his mother passed on the 28th. So he said 28th year for Saturn to cycle around the sun, 28 G's to make it a whole thing, Saturn year. He said super focused right now. Got some big surprises for y'all very soon. Me and the team been working very hard to bring something meaningful and special to the ones who've been down with this long. Just tonight we gonna celebrate. Meet me at the Booty Club.
Girl, Angie Stone, what's up? I said, it's my turn, Mike. There he go. Hey,
that's my life. Hey.
It's Swavo Chronicles. Swavo and Mom. Look, first of all, it's been a minute.
First of all, it's her birthday, man. Wish her happy birthday, man. Balloons in the chat, man. Balloons in the chat.
I'm gonna need you to
happy
calm
birthday.
down.
Happy birthday.
Pay attention to the road.
Happy birthday.
You know what, y'all? This is why I decided to go live today, because my son has road rage, mental problems.
Yeah, but we're gonna be wrong.
Okay. There's a lot of traffic out here, and this raging fool over here. Okay,
Mama, you know
I have to look because I don't want nobody to jump out their car and come at me because you acting crazy.
All these years I've been having road rage.
Listen,
did something to you.
Listen,
Never.
Mike, you are so bad.
Why would they do something to you?
I'm
standing right here.
Not you. See me? I would run clean over a person that come in front of me by anything, because I don't know what you're coming for. You should have stayed in your car. But him, he'll sit there and have a confrontation, and somebody pull out something. People are going crazy today. You don't know. Hush.
They're not like that, though. They're not going to really do that. They're scary. That's why they do that.
A scary person don't jump out their car and run to a car with two black people in it and one that's 3 times their size. They're going to knock them. They're crazy to run up on you. You don't play the radio. You just can't beat me.
Right.
That part. I'll take something and knock you down. I mean that. But anyway,
and why Michael believes someone wanted Angie gone. When Angie Stone's body was taken in for a routine post-mortem examination, her family expected the process to be fairly straightforward. After all, Angie had long battled chronic health issues, including type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, and a history of significant weight fluctuations, all of which put her at a higher risk for sudden health complications. But when her son, Michael, sat down to review the preliminary findings, something immediately stood out. Details that didn't match the typical profile of a natural death caused by a diabetic episode or heart failure. According to Michael, there were multiple discrepancies in the timeline of her passing, along with unexplained trauma markers that raised serious red flags. For example, the official cause of death was initially labeled as cardiac arrest related to diabetic complications, a convenient explanation given Angie's known health struggles. However, the toxicology report told a different story. Traces of sedatives and an unknown compound were found in her bloodstream, substances that Angie had no prescriptions for. Michael, who'd been managing much of her medical care, knew every single medication his mother was taking. Pills. None of these foreign substances matched anything Angie had been prescribed. But that wasn't the only thing that disturbed him. There were bruises. Not the kind you might expect from a simple fall or accidental bump. These were deep tissue bruises found in areas like her upper arms, wrists, and neck. According to a forensic specialist Michael consulted, these bruises were consistent with someone being forcibly restrained, the kind of force used to subdue someone actively fighting back. Michael remembered a conversation Angie had with him just days before her death, where she said, "I feel like someone's watching me. Every time I speak up, something happens. A contract disappears, a deal falls through, or I get a warning call telling me to stay in my lane." At the time, Michael thought his mother was just venting her frustration over her ongoing legal battles with former labels and management teams who had allegedly withheld royalties from her biggest hits, songs that built the foundation of modern neo-soul and even hip-hop. But after seeing the autopsy irregularities, he started to believe Angie's paranoia wasn't paranoia at all. It was a warning sign that she was being silenced. Even more suspicious was how quickly the official reports were sealed and how little attention the media gave to Angie's actual cause of death. It was almost as if someone wanted the story buried before it could gain traction. Michael hired a private pathologist, hoping for more answers. And that's when things got even darker. This independent examination confirmed what Michael feared most. Angie's body showed signs of prolonged stress and possible suffocation, with evidence of airway obstruction that was inconsistent with natural causes. In other words, someone may have deliberately cut off her ability to breathe. And yet, the final public report still ruled her death as natural causes. A ruling Michael believes was the result of pressure from powerful industry figures who wanted Angie gone, her voice silenced, and her story buried. But who exactly would want Angie Stone dead? And what secrets was she so close to exposing that her life may have been taken to keep her quiet? In the next section, we'll explore the enemies Angie made over the years, the powerful music executives who profited from her work, and the disturbing pattern of silencing outspoken Black artists who fight for their rights. For those who knew Angie Stone personally, her talent was undeniable, but so was her fearlessness when it came to speaking her truth, even when it made powerful people uncomfortable. Angie wasn't just a singer. She was a woman who understood the inner workings of the music industry, and she wasn't afraid to call out the exploitation, greed, and shady backroom deals that many artists, especially Black women, were forced to endure. Her outspokenness didn't begin in her later years. It had always been part of her DNA. From the moment she transitioned from her early days in the hip-hop trio Sequence to her reign as a queen of neo-soul, Angie was vocal about how the industry marginalized women like her, women who didn't fit the cookie-cutter image of slim, light-skinned pop divas. She didn't just talk about it in private, she gave interviews, wrote songs, and even stood up to executives behind closed doors. One of the most infamous incidents came in the early 2000s when Angie publicly accused her record label of withholding royalties from her biggest albums. She was blackballed from certain radio stations almost overnight. But even after that, Angie didn't fall in line. Instead, she became even more vocal, especially about how Black female artists were being financially exploited, often signing predatory contracts that left them penniless even after selling millions of records. Angie's willingness to expose these practices made her a target, not just for the label executives, but for the whole power structure of the music industry. According to close friends, Angie had received warnings, anonymous phone calls telling her to stop talking so much and to remember who controls the airwaves. At first, she brushed it off, thinking it was just empty threats from disgruntled former colleagues. But the more she spoke out, the more deals started mysteriously falling through. Tour sponsors would pull out at the last minute, her albums would disappear from streaming platforms without explanation, and collaborators would back away from projects, afraid of being associated with someone the industry considered a troublemaker. But here's where things took a darker turn. In the months leading up to her death, Angie was reportedly working on a tell-all memoir, a book that would have pulled the curtain back on some of the most powerful figures in music. According to Michael, his mother was sitting on receipts, emails, contracts, and recorded conversations that documented schemes, sexual coercion, and even threats of violence against artists who didn't comply. The book was never published. What makes this even more chilling is that Michael found drafts of the manuscript on Angie's personal laptop, but several key chapters were missing, particularly the ones where she named specific individuals and companies. It was as if someone had deliberately erased the most damning parts of her story before anyone could read them. And Michael wasn't the only one who noticed something off. Several of Angie's closest friends and collaborators claimed that in the weeks before her death, she seemed more anxious than usual. She spoke about strange cars parked outside her house, unfamiliar faces showing up at her performances, and receiving text messages from unknown numbers, warning her to stay quiet for her own good. One former label executive, who asked to remain anonymous, later revealed that Angie had been threatened with legal action if her book ever saw the light of day. They even hinted that there are ways to silence people who don't know when to quit. What makes this even more unsettling is that Angie was far from the first artist to face this type of intimidation. From TLC's financial battles to Prince's fight for ownership of his masters, the music industry has a long, ugly history of punishing artists who refuse to play the game. But Angie's case feels different. The combination of her mysterious injuries, the sealed autopsy report, and the sudden disappearance of her most damning evidence raises serious questions. Was her death truly a result of natural causes, or was it the ultimate price for speaking out against the system? As Michael dug deeper into his mother's affairs after her death, he uncovered a chilling pattern. Certain individuals who had been involved in her legal battles, her canceled deals, and her missing royalties had all worked together before, forming a web of influence that stretched across major labels, publishing houses, and even mainstream media outlets. It was no longer just a theory, it was a pattern of silencing, and Angie had become its latest victim. But the story doesn't end there, because while Angie's voice may have been silenced, her son Michael is refusing to let her story die. He's been gathering witness statements, digital evidence, and physical records, all in a bid to finally expose the truth about what happened to his mother, no matter how powerful her enemies may be. But before Michael can blow the lid off this industry-wide conspiracy, there's one more piece of the puzzle: the identity of the mysterious figure who visited Angie in her final hours, someone whose connection to her death may be the key to everything. And that's exactly what we're going to uncover in the next section. The final visit. Who was in Angie's home the night she died? The night Angie Stone was found unresponsive, the official story was frustratingly simple, almost too simple. According to the initial report, she had suffered a freak accident, allegedly slipping and sustaining severe injuries. The cause of death was swiftly attributed to complications from her fall. A tragic accident, they said. Case closed. But what Michael Stone uncovered after his mother's passing painted a far more chilling and complex picture, one that raised disturbing questions about who had been in Angie's home that night and why. See, Angie was not a recluse in her final months, but she was careful about who she let inside her private space. Friends say she had grown more guarded after a series of unsettling incidents, threatening messages, unauthorized attempts to access her private email, and even strange figures hanging around her neighborhood, seemingly watching her house. According to her closest circle, Angie had a gut feeling that someone was trying to silence her, especially as her tell-all memoir was nearing completion. So when Michael reviewed security camera footage from his mother's home, he was expecting to see either a break-in or nothing unusual at all. What he found instead was something far more sinister. At approximately 11:47 p.m., the night before Angie was found, a black luxury SUV pulled up outside her home. The driver never exited the vehicle, but a passenger, a man dressed in all black, approached the front door. This individual, who never showed his face directly to the camera, was buzzed into the house after just a brief conversation through the intercom. This alone was odd. Angie wasn't in the habit of letting unannounced visitors into her home, especially that late at night. But even more unsettling was the fact that this man remained inside the house for nearly 2 hours, leaving shortly after 1:30 a.m. Who was he? And why was Angie, someone so cautious in her final days, willing to let him in and keep him there for so long? Michael began digging, cross-referencing phone records, personal journal, which she had kept religiously for years. There, tucked between pages filled with lyrics, personal reflections, and notes for her memoir, was a chilling entry, dated just a week before her death. It read, "He reached out again. Says he wants to clear the air. After all these years, something doesn't feel right, but I need closure before I tell my story. I'll let him in, but on my terms, no more lies." The entry didn't name the individual, but it was enough to confirm Michael's worst fear. Whoever visited his mother that night wasn't some random friend or business associate. It was someone from her past, someone with unfinished business. What makes this even darker is that Angie had confided in a close friend just days before her death that she was being pressured to rewrite or water down parts of her memoir, specifically the sections naming powerful industry executives tied to pay-for-play schemes, financial exploitation, and even rumors of sexual coercion involving female artists. Michael uncovered dozens of emails between Angie and a mysterious legal consultant, someone who claimed they could help protect her from lawsuits if her book revealed too much. But those emails took a sinister turn just days before she died. The final message read, "Certain stories are better left untold. People are watching. People are waiting. Please reconsider for your own safety." Was the man who visited Angie that night a messenger, sent to scare her into silence? Or was he something far worse, a cleaner, dispatched to ensure her story would never leave those four walls? Michael was determined to find out. He tracked down neighbors, asking if anyone had seen the SUV or recognized the mystery visitor. One elderly neighbor remembered seeing the vehicle, but what she said next sent chills down Michael's spine. She recalled seeing the man exiting the house, wearing gloves, carrying a small black bag, and moving with the calm precision of someone who had done this before. This wasn't a social visit. It was a mission. Even more alarming was what Michael discovered when he obtained a copy of the official police report. According to first responders, the front door was unlocked when they arrived, and the home showed no signs of forced entry, meaning Angie had willingly let someone inside. But here's the twist. The timeline of events given to police by the industry insider who first reported Angie's death didn't match the security footage Michael reviewed. This person claimed they hadn't spoken to Angie for several days before her passing. Yet Michael uncovered a deleted phone call log showing a 34-minute call between Angie and that very same insider just hours before the mystery visitor arrived. What was discussed during that call? Why was it deleted? And why would someone lie about the last time they spoke to Angie Stone? And there's more. When Michael reviewed the autopsy photos, there were inconsistencies that couldn't be explained by a simple slip-and-fall accident. Certain bruises, abrasions, and internal injuries were more consistent with blunt force trauma, the kind caused by deliberate physical violence, not a household accident. There were also indications that Angie had fought back, with skin under her fingernails that was never tested for DNA. The official cause of death remained complications from accidental injuries, but Michael saw it for what it was: a cover-up, one designed to protect someone with enough power to manipulate both the narrative and the investigation. But who? That's the question Michael refuses to let go. And it's why he's still pursuing legal action, even as the industry quietly works to erase his mother's legacy, hoping the world will forget her story before the full truth comes to light. But there's one final clue: a cryptic voicemail left on Michael's phone just days after his mother's passing. The voice, distorted by what sounded like a voice-changing app, simply said, "What's done is done. Don't dig too deep. The past is where it belongs." But Michael isn't backing down, because for him, this isn't just about Angie Stone. It's about every artist silenced for telling the truth, every Black woman in the industry punished for demanding respect, and every grieving family forced to accept a lie when they deserve justice. And now, Michael believes there's one final piece of evidence hidden somewhere in Angie's personal archives: a recorded conversation between Angie and the man who visited her that night. A conversation that, if found, could blow the lid off this entire cover-up. But the question remains, will Michael find it before the people who silenced his mother come for him next? Angie Stone's memoir was supposed to be her final word, her unfiltered truth after decades of silence, compromise, and quiet suffering. Friends say she poured her heart, soul, and unvarnished reality into those pages, she was warned, repeatedly, to think twice before naming certain names. She knew the risks, but after years of being exploited by the very industry she helped shape, Angie believed the world deserved to know what really happens behind the curtain, especially to Black female artists who dared to demand their fair share of respect, credit, and compensation. According to her closest confidants, the memoir didn't just cover her own life. It was set to expose a systemic network of corruption, gatekeeping, and quiet intimidation within the music industry. This wasn't just about bad contracts or money disputes. This was about predatory behavior, sexual coercion, backroom deals, and intentional erasure of artists who refused to play by unwritten rules. But here's where it gets chilling. The draft of Angie's memoir, the document she had been painstakingly working on for nearly 5 years, disappeared within 24 hours of her death. Michael Stone, Angie's son, was adamant that his mother's personal laptop, the device that housed the only complete copy of her manuscript, was in her home the night before she passed. In fact, Michael recalls seeing her working on it just days earlier, during a FaceTime call where Angie had excitedly read him the opening chapter, confident that her story would finally be told on her terms. But when Michael arrived at Angie's house after receiving the devastating call about her death, the laptop was gone. At first, Michael thought it was a simple oversight. Maybe the police had taken it for evidence, or perhaps a well-meaning friend or assistant had removed it to protect her personal files from prying eyes. But when Michael asked the police, they claimed they never saw a laptop at the scene. None of Angie's friends or family admitted to removing it either. It was as if the device, and Angie's truth, had been erased. But there's more. Michael remembered that Angie was paranoid about losing her work. She had repeatedly told him that certain people were trying to infiltrate her email, cloud accounts, even her phone. So she had started keeping physical backups, printed chapters, handwritten notes, and even a portable external drive where she stored voice memos, emails, and confidential recordings. That too was missing. Michael tore through every drawer, every box, every hiding place in his mother's home, and it was clear someone had been there before him. Files were out of place, desk drawers partially emptied, and a hidden safe Angie had installed in her closet had been left slightly ajar, its contents removed. What was inside that safe? According to Angie herself, as confided to her best friend, the safe held a signed letter from a legendary Black female artist, someone who had once warned Angie about the price of survival in the music industry. That letter, described as a cautionary manifesto, named several high-profile executives, producers, and even fellow artists who were part of a covert power structure, one that allegedly decided who thrived, who disappeared, and who was sacrificed to protect the machine. That letter, like Angie's laptop and backup drive, was nowhere to be found. Even more chilling, Michael discovered that Angie's email accounts had been wiped remotely. The day after her death, every email, every draft she had sent to her publisher, every legal document related to her memoir contract, gone, as if they never existed. When Michael contacted Angie's publisher, hoping they had a working copy of her manuscript, he was met with a wall of silence. The editor Angie had been working with, someone she had described as a trusted ally, had resigned suddenly, citing health issues, and all correspondence between Angie and the publisher had been mysteriously purged from their system. It was clear, someone, somewhere, was making sure Angie's story never saw the light of day. But why? And who stood to gain from silencing her? Michael began piecing together a timeline, reviewing text messages, call logs, and private notes Angie had sent him. What emerged was a pattern of escalating threats, some subtle, some overt. Anonymous calls warning her to stay in her lane. Cryptic messages left in her car windshield saying, "Not everything needs to be said." Angie even confided in Michael that her home security system had been tampered with multiple times, cameras going offline without explanation, logs showing phantom logins late at night. In one particularly disturbing incident, Angie found a manila envelope left at her front door. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a chilling message. "Artists don't write history, we do." Despite the fear, Angie refused to stop writing. She told Michael, "If they're scared of my truth, that means I'm finally doing something right." But courage wasn't enough to save her manuscript or her life. Michael believes the man who visited Angie the night before her death wasn't just there or erased entirely. But here's the twist. Michael isn't convinced Angie's entire story was destroyed. Weeks after Angie's funeral, Michael received a burner phone in the mail. No return address, no note, just the phone. On the device was a single video file, grainy and dimly lit, but unmistakably showing Angie sitting at her desk, reading aloud from her memoir's final chapter. In the video, Angie's voice trembles slightly, but her words are clear. They took my songs, they took my money, but they'll never take my story. Michael believes this video, and the anonymous person who sent it holds the key to unlocking the full truth about what really happened to Angie Stone and why the industry feared her voice so much. But the biggest question of all remains: where is the rest of the memoir? And who is willing to kill to make sure it stays buried? Michael's search for answers continues, but as he digs deeper, the warnings grow louder. Anonymous calls, shadowy figures tailing his car, and one chilling text message sent just days after the burner phone arrived. Your mother's silence wasn't enough. Don't make the same mistake. In the days leading up to her death, Angie Stone's tone had shifted from her usual warm reassurance to a subtle, almost unshakable sense of urgency. Michael noticed it immediately. His mother, always the strong and protective figure, was suddenly choosing her words carefully, leaving unfinished thoughts hanging in the air, as though there was something she desperately needed to say, but couldn't bring herself to fully voice. At first, Michael assumed it was the stress of completing her memoir, combined with the toll of years of unresolved industry trauma weighing on her spirit. But as the days passed, Angie's calls became more frequent, her conversations peppered with cryptic statements that didn't quite make sense at the time, but now haunt Michael's every waking thought. One of the last calls they shared lasted nearly 2 hours. Michael remembers his mother pausing more than usual, as if she was listening for something, or someone, on the other side of the door. When Michael asked if everything was okay, Angie brushed it off with a light laugh, but her voice wavered just enough to betray her fear. "Baby," she said, her voice softer than usual, "if anything ever happens to me, I need you to know, it wasn't no accident." The sentence chilled Michael to the core, but before he could press her for details, Angie pivoted to small talk, asking about his day, his work, his health. The kind of motherly check-in that made him question whether he'd imagined the ominous undercurrent in her voice. But in hindsight, every word was deliberate. Over the next few days, Angie began leaving voice memos for Michael. Not the usual affectionate check-ins or silly songs she sometimes left to cheer him up, but serious, heartfelt messages that felt like a woman writing her own obituary in real time. In one message, Angie spoke in a low whisper, her voice barely above a breath, as though she knew someone might be listening. "I've been fighting so long, baby, longer than you even know. There's things I've seen, things I've been made to do, all so I could make a way for you, for us. They don't want me talking about it now, but it's too late for me to stop. And if I don't make it through this, you need to understand, it wasn't because I gave up, it's because they finally came to collect." Michael played that message at least a dozen times after Angie's death, each replay peeling back another layer of meaning. It was clear his mother had been living with a shadow over her shoulder, a shadow Michael knew nothing about until it was too late. But the messages didn't stop there. The final voice memo Angie left Michael, just hours before she was found unresponsive, was the hardest for him to hear, not because of what she said, but because of how she said it. Her voice trembled in a way Michael had never heard before, not even during the darkest chapters of their lives. "Michael, my sweet boy, you need to promise me something. No matter what they say about me, no matter what stories they try to sell, you remember who your mama really was. You remember I did this all for you. And if you ever feel that someone's watching you or you get a call that don't sit right with your spirit, you don't answer it. You leave it alone, because the same people who came for me, they don't stop until every loose end is tied up. Michael's heart broke hearing those words, but it wasn't until later that the full weight of what Angie was trying to say truly hit him. His mother knew her time was running out. She knew with chilling certainty that the very industry she helped build, the industry she gave her life, her talent, and her soul to, had marked her as a threat. Not because she had secrets they didn't already know, but because there was something about the finality in her voice that stuck with Michael. The acceptance, the resignation, but also the deep defiance. Even in her fear, Angie was determined to protect her son from the same machine that had taken so much from her. But Angie's warning wasn't just about the immediate danger. It was a message layered with generational wisdom, passed down through whispered conversations between Black mothers and sons who learned the hard way that survival often came at the cost of silence. Michael found himself replaying not only her messages, but memories from his childhood, moments that seemed innocent at the time, but now painted a far darker picture. The strangers who lingered outside their home, the phone calls that made Angie's smile disappear in an instant, the times she told him to always check the back seat before getting in the car. Lessons wrapped in love, but rooted in something far more sinister. It wasn't paranoia, it was preparation. Angie had been training Michael for a battle he didn't even know existed, a war fought in silence, through contracts that never saw daylight, NDAs enforced by fear, and careers built on secrets traded like currency. And now, with Angie gone, Michael realized something terrifying. The battle hadn't ended. It had just passed down to him. Her final message was both a blessing and a burden, a plea for Michael to live freely, but also a reminder that freedom comes at a cost when you know too much. Michael knew his mother's story was too important to die with her, but Angie's final words still echo in his mind every night. Some truths are too